Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our show. I'm your producer, Jack Tunney, and we're coming to you live on tape from the Sandwich Studio in Oceanside, California. It's September 24th, 2020. We have a great show for you today. We will start, as always, with the first bite, where we'll discuss the biggest headlines of this week. Then, we'll dive deep into our sandwich, which focuses on the effects of social media during the pandemic, before finally giving you the sweet relief of the milk. All that being said, go like and subscribe if you enjoy our show and wish to hear more of our commentary. Now, without further ado, in association with SitRep Media, the hosts of the PB&J Podcast.
Hi, and welcome back to the PB&J Podcast. My name is Brandon Blackmon.
And I'm Peter Whitehead. Our first bite begins with a story on the notorious RBG. So as pretty much everyone in the country is aware, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, died last week on Friday, September 18th. She was the second woman that was put on the Supreme Court and the first person of Jewish heritage. And she spent her time there fighting tooth and nail for reproductive rights, equal rights in the workplace, and equal rights at home. She became known as the notorious RBG for her connection with Biggie Smalls' hometown, Brooklyn, and also for her many dissenting opinions that the young political scientists who were on social media at the time, they compared it to like rap verses.
Yeah, they definitely like boosted her cred and made her into what people call like a political rock star. Because,
yes.
I mean, she had done so much, but it's hard to make these court cases a little more attractive. But people definitely kind of boosted her message, which is awesome.
Yeah, and she like became known as like, the dissenter, and she was always writing those dissenting opinions on those court decisions that were so important, especially in that time period. So she became a living hero to many people,
Definitely.
and even to those of the Americans that didn't agree with her, she was an icon to every single one of us. We all know who Ruth Bader Ginsburg was. We all know what she did. Pretty much unanimously across the aisle, there is respect for her.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so significant that she's the first woman to ever lie in state.
Yes.
Like, officially. Like, it shows how far we've come as a country, like, that she's only the first. But we have made progress. So, it's an important time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's more than just this political mess that Trump and the Republicans want to turn it into.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. As much as, I wish that I could just have this segment be a
memorial.
just a remembrance of her and how great she was. Unfortunately, the Republicans have taken this tragic situation of her death, and turned it into a political moment. Already, we see Republicans mobilizing to replace her seat with a young conservative judge. Mitch McConnell only waited a couple of hours on the day of her death.
Wasn't even a couple of hours. It was like an hour and a half, bro.
Yeah, it was like no time at all to say that he wanted to replace her before the election.
Nasty.
And this is, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because every news source out there is spending a lot of time on this. This is a direct contrast to him waiting a full year to fill the Scalia vacancy during an election year. This was in 2016. So he waited all the way till 2017 when we had Trump to fill that seat, but it's now, only a short time before the election, and is trying to jam this down.
And Lindsey Graham saying, "You should use my words against me if I ever do this." Like they don't care how they sound.
No, it's all for the the political whatever is good for them in the moment. Advantageous to them in the moment. They will do. It doesn't matter what they said. It doesn't matter what they have said. It doesn't matter what rules they applied for themselves. They will do whatever they can in whatever moment to get the advantage in
and they have
turning this country towards conservatism.
They have the opening, so they're going to take it because they're monsters.
And of course, this is against Ruth Bader Ginsburg's last wishes, which were not to be replaced by this president, which I understand.
Or in an election year, norms.
It's a lot, and it adds to an already extremely tense situation around the 2020 election. Trump is using this moment to shift the campaign away from some of the stuff that we talked about in the last couple of weeks, which was the failures of the COVID response in America, Also, the tense racial situation that has just been reignited. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But he believes that another Supreme Court nomination from him would secure victory for him. I think it's a true thing that he thinks. Conservatives have always been big on judge appointments. They care way more than Democrats do, than leftists do in regards to that, in polling and such. So he is pretty confident that he could win the, slightly conservative moderates by getting another conservative judge on the bench. He plans on putting a woman on the bench that he has said, and there is a short list. So we should see that forthwith. We'll probably see it by the next show, who his nominee is. But he was using this situation to try to distract from all of the other stuff that's going on. Let's see how well that worked out for him.
Yeah, let's see what the people think.
So this is him visiting Ginsburg casket. Yeah, that's pretty sure response there.
One unifying cry. I like when a chant just turns into like one voice.
Yeah.
I wish I was there.
Those are chants of vote him out.
He hears that. He hears that.
No, for sure he hears it. He's not deaf.
He also went on to chant "Honor Her Wish."
Yeah.
Don't have to run that back.
I wish I was there.
Yeah, I wish I was there too. It seems like a powerful moment. So clearly not working well for him. I mean, although the people that would go to see her lying in state are likely not the people that were going to vote for him to begin with, but I just thought it was funny juxtaposition.
He has a tendency to only perform in front of crowds that like him. So
yes,
he usually doesn't
indeed.
get boos like that. So it's nice to get some reality for him.
But yeah, we just wanted to talk about that a little bit. It's an important thing. It's an important moment. Her position on the Supreme Court was really important in terms of the spread of liberalness versus conservativeness. I'm the type of person that likes to see a very diverse court. I like to see it pretty evenly matched, if not evenly matched, on the Supreme Court.
I think it should represent the country, not
because
who's lucky.
There are people who have conservative values, and they should be represented on the Supreme Court as well. There are people who have liberal values; they should be represented on the Supreme Court. But what we're looking at, if Justice Ginsburg is replaced by a conservative judge, is a 6-3 Supreme Court in the favor of conservatism, which
and specifically undemocratic. Like before an election, like we should be able to have a voice on this. So it shows that the Supreme Court is directly not representative of the country. Yeah. Because we don't have a voice, literally. Yeah. In selecting it.
Yeah, I mean, we waited a full year for Merrick Garland, didn't get him, and then
Norms.
All the stuff with Brett Kavanaugh, of course, we all remember that shit show, and now with this,
and the fact that he's going to use this to solidify his coup d'état on the election, like this is exactly what he needs right now.
Yeah, the Supreme Court might end up deciding certain things like it did in 2000 with the Al Gore situation in Florida. So there is a reason, if you will, authoritarian reason for Trump to want to fill this spot and make sure that it's a very friendly Supreme Court, because at this point you have to understand, if he does get a Supreme Court justice on in this year, that will be 3 Supreme Court justices in 4 years. Which is
who are Trump
appointees, yeah.
Which is
so that's a
nasty.
huge voting block if you think about it. Like if the election does come to that, which he tends to be leaning towards, I think, and that's this next clip that I wanted to play, which is that Trump once again declines to agree to have a peaceful transition of power. This meaning, of course, that if he doesn't like the results, he may deny them.
He's just saying it now.
Yes, outwardly. Play the clip.
Speaking of transitions, that seemed pretty peaceful to me.
Will you commit here today for a peaceful transferal power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been
gonna have to
complaining
see what
very
happens.
strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster. And
What is
And that, but people are rioting. Do you commit to making sure that there's a
No,
peaceful
we wanna-
transfer of
We
power?
want to get rid of the ballots, and you'll have a we'll have a very peaceful.
What does that mean?
There won't be a transfer, frankly.
What does
There'll
that
be
mean?
A
continuation.
continuation. Pause it for a second.
Get rid of the
Yeah,
ballots.
that clip didn't have the part where he said the continuation.
Yeah, no, I think he said it right at the end there, but that's some
it was the
crazy
words- it
stuff.
was the
He's
words after
what
that.
what you like? What is he? What is he saying? He's saying like, oh, if we throw out the vote, then I'll accept the.
Yeah,
Dude.
if we get rid of the ballots, we won't have a transfer.
I think he's talking about mail-in ballots. I think, but come on, dude.
But the sentence that he said was,
the
"Get
sentence-
rid of the balance. We won't have a transfer. We'll have a continuation."
we'll have a continuation of power.
Even if you didn't
I'll
mean that,
play what Joe Biden says here because
Yeah, no.
it takes the words right out of my mouth.
dumb man as president.
What you gotta say, Joe?
Trump's comments today that he did not commit to a peaceful transfer of power if he loses
Look at
the
the shock.
election.
Bruh.
What country are we in?
What country are we in?
The Biden
Facetious.
bruh.
I said, what country are we in? Look,
Wow.
he says the most irrational things.
Dude, I've been feeling Biden recently.
I don't know what to say about it, but it does surprise me.
It doesn't surprise me. That's what he says at the end there. It doesn't surprise me. I don't know what to say about it, but it doesn't surprise me.
I really like
And that's
Biden.
exactly how I feel. That is it precisely how I feel.
I liked what he was saying in the town hall. I've liked what he's been saying this week. Biden's had a really good 2 weeks, I would say.
Yeah, and it's leading up to some good
Some
good
of the
stuff.
debates.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second.
Yeah.
I think you're up on this one there,
But
Brandon.
so we finally got criminal charges update on the Breonna Taylor case. I guess we just call it a case now because the criminal courts aren't considering it a murder. Actually, the grand jury didn't file any murder charges specifically towards Breonna Taylor's death. Just like in the death report, like they said that she didn't suffer any injuries. There were no injuries suffered. So we know that they have a history of hiding the truth of their story. So the only charge that was filed in the criminal case was in wanton endangerment of one cop, and that doesn't involve in the shooting into the house. It involves the reckless firing that they were doing actually pierced the apartment and crossed into a different apartment, into an apartment with like a baby sleeping in a carriage. So
And it was like excessive too. They were saying that like
Yeah.
what is defined as like wanton endangerment was that like this guy fired like some 16 rounds, I think it was, or 12 or 16 rounds into the room.
I was watching an interview by a lawyer, and he was saying that in the police phone call from a neighbor who called the cops about the shooting, said that at the beginning of the call, you can hear the police shooting in the background. And then a minute and a half into the phone call, there's like a witness phone call, you can still hear the police shooting. So that means that there was a gunfight,
Yeah.
and a one-sided gunfight at that, because someone is in there trying to defend their home. And also, I mean, I really just want to get into how we have to remember how the cops lied so much about this story, about how they said they weren't wearing body cams, and and then they found out that they were. I mean, there's reports that they didn't announce that they were police, and then the final report says that they did announce.
Yeah.
But actually, according to the New York Times, only 1 out of 12 of the witnesses actually said that they heard police, like a police announcement.
Yeah, I heard. I watch a lot of Chris Cuomo. I like him. And he had an interesting point about it. He said, just release the files. If you want this situation to be over and you're sure that you're correct about it,
Yeah.
release the files to the
Release
public.
the body cam footage.
Release the body cam footage to the public. Release the information that was shown by the grand jury. If there is no criminal case, release the information. And it will clarify. It will show us people who are here at home going, what happened?
It would stop the rioting.
Yes.
It would answer our questions.
It would answer our questions. And the only reason I can contemplate why these police officers in this police department is holding on to this information is because not all of it is as clear cut as they were making it out to be.
Probably looks terrible.
Yes. It probably looks awful. And
Yeah.
then,
I
like,
mean,
what
it's
are they going to do?
Probably the most tragic story.
Yeah.
She had just come home from like 4 overnight shifts at work at a hospital, trying to, get her nursing degree or however that works.
Yes.
It is tragic, and the fact that it has to end like this is honestly not good for the powers that be. Like, the people were
Yeah.
already angry, so
And they're just gonna get more angry. Like the guy said in the clip that we showed with Trump. He said, there's riots in the street.
they're already rioting.
They're already rioting, and you won't agree to a peaceful transition of power. Like,
And you see Donald Trump just mumbling, I know.
oh, I know.
I know.
They're rioting. They're very
obvious.
dangerous people. These rioters, these thugs.
and there's so much to be angry about.
A lot to
Like,
be angry
the
about.
corruption goes from the top to the bottom. I mean, this next story in the first bite has to do with the Pentagon and the corruption, I guess, that has been revealed specifically by our House of Representatives, the Committee for Appropriations, how money is appropriated within the government. They actually found that the $1 billion that was given to the Pentagon through the CARES Act, through the Defensive Production Act specifically, was completely misused.
Yes.
And, because what was publicly reported was that it was going to be used for, turning factories into mass production agencies, PPE production, and, safeguarding their, environment so they could continue working. But what actually happened is that, so basically it was originally promised that a fourth of that money would go to the defense contractors and the rest would go specifically to the mass production. It turned out that, one of the defense heads, I think her name was Ellen Lord, said that some of these just defense contractors, they had critical needs through the pandemic, even though these companies weren't usually affected because their orders are already shipped and their productions had already happened. It's not like it's a constant moving market like that. So their stock's fine, but they still used this fund, and they got $688 million of the original $1 billion when they're supposed to get $250 million. So it's a massive increase that it seems like it was unchecked that this money is just going out to whoever. And then you find out who it's going to. It's going to companies like Rolls-Royce. Like, that's a company that you don't even realize, but it is a defense subsidiary. They produce ships for the government. And they're taking hundreds of millions of dollars to boost their stock and, float on the economy.
If I didn't know any better, I would think that they're making a Batman suit or something in there.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's hilarious because you were joking about that, like, this money. What's so expensive,
Yeah, it's like that one guy in The Dark Knight who finds out that there's like an R&D department and that it's like really expensive and they don't build anything, and you're like,
Yeah, that money's just going either into someone's pockets or it's like sitting in the savings. But the fact that our government is giving these crazy bailouts, like, to me, that's state socialism. That is,
yeah, state and corporate socialism. Yeah.
yes, it's the state giving investments to certain sectors to keep them afloat in the way to keep the state
And
economy working.
meanwhile, you and I get, a little bit,
Fractions.
a little
You
bit.
get 1,200 for 6 months.
We're sprinkled.
Yeah.
No new plan. But the Senate you watch. The Senate can't pass any reasonable stimulus, but they will
It's not gonna
ram
happen.
through this
budget?
justice. No, this justice
Oh, the justice.
nomination.
I mean, they've
They
been
will-
doing justices.
like that.
That's
They'll
what
do
one
it.
of the main things they've been doing this summer is just
Yeah.
confirming justices. Like,
It's incredible.
I mean, it just annoys me that, like you said, we can't get any crazy 500 million bailout for the people. I mean, the Paycheck Protection Program had a limit on it, and the same companies that are getting this defense production bailout also were able to dig their hand into the Paycheck Protection Program. So they're double dipping, and you're getting $1,200. So I understand if you go riot. Like it's angering because you're not being heard.
I would like to say something.
Go for it.
I've just been wanting to say this the last couple episodes, but I figure now is a great time to reassure people. I don't know if anybody out there has ever had an economics class. I did not have a very good one, but I know how economics work to a T at some points. And I'm going to be completely honest. When you don't fund the bottom half of your economy, it's like pulling the rug out from under you.
Yeah.
You're gonna fall.
The whole
So
thing
it
comes
does,
down.
yes.
It's
it
what happened in the Great
does
Depression.
not matter
It's a
Yeah.
simple.
how much money you give to corporations that have the money right now. They will put it away.
Yeah.
And money in banks or monies in safes doesn't get circulated. So taxes start not coming in the way they should be.
It just doesn't make any sense.
It's a
man.
simple
It's a simple mathematical
supply
formula.
and demand.
Well,
Exactly.
here's the thing, dude. We are the functioning part of the economy. You and me. Right?
We're the 50%.
Yeah. We're the part that goes out. We buy the consumer goods. We spend money on gas. We spend money on groceries.
Food, fast
We're the. It's not the corporation. Like the corporation, those dudes, you know, they spend it on luxury cars
or
and
contracts.
yachts.
I mean, even
and
contracts. Like one person gets something, I get something. You know, I go to my local food store and
If you're trying to fix an
community
economy
based.
that's faltering, focus on the people that actually move the economy.
you have to increase the supply of money. So the demands that we were, you know, achieving last year, even if you, you know, falsely increase the supply, which is a stimulus bill. Like that's what unemployment was doing. We were still able to, you know, have consumer spending that matched last year.
Yeah.
So now you can see exactly how the lack of the stimulus affects the economy. We're going to see percentage dropping now.
The people
the
are the
GDP.
foundation. And if you don't support your foundation, you're going to crumble.
Yeah.
It's just all I can
That's
say.
a good point, Jack Tunney. Thank you for bringing it up.
Just for the people at home, you know how it be.
Talk about that.
Oh, that.
We got some great entertainment coming up next week on Tuesday at 7 p.m., 6 p.m., or 5 p.m. We didn't check.
We didn't check, but we know it's actually September 29th. That's not Tuesday, is it?
Tuesday.
That's Thursday.
That's Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday?
Today's 12, blah, 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 blah.
Today's the 24th. You're right.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday.
Tues.
Clearly, we didn't research much into this particular.
Tues.
The day after Yom Kippur.
Yes. So there is a presidential debate coming. The first of, I hope, a few. They haven't decided how many they're going to do, but I hope that it is not the only one. It will be in Cleveland, Ohio, which, as we know, is a swing state. The focus in this particular debate will be the coronavirus pandemic response, the Ruth Bader Ginsburg vacancy, and ongoing political unrest.
Race and violence in our cities.
Yes.
Okay, Democrats.
Well, I wrote it down that way.
No,
so
that's
to specifically not say what you just said.
Yeah, no, that's what they said.
That's what they say. That's what they say. I don't like that though, because I don't think it's like
race and violence.
Yeah, I don't think it's race and violence. I definitely think it's political unrest.
I would say it's violence and race, right?
I think probably politics.
Probably just leave it at violence.
It's violence.
Yeah,
but that's what they'll be talking about. They're going to have hopefully a pretty structured debate. I know Trump walks all over the rules, so he'll do whatever he wants.
I
but
don't understand.
I think that Biden will be surprising to some people in the debate. I think that we're expecting a lackluster response. I was expecting lackluster on his acceptance speech, got much better than that. I was expecting lackluster in his town hall, got way better than that.
Good town hall.
So I think that
there been
we
any-
might see a pretty good Biden in this debate.
Any word if it's going to be like in person or on like a Zoom call, or he's bringing out the Biden glasses?
I imagine that it'll be on like some form of virtual. I don't think they'll be like or they might do it the way that Bernie and him did it at the end of the primary.
Super social distance.
Distanced, and they, elbow touched or whatever. So
There's like 3 people in there. Yeah.
yeah, I think they might do it that way. That's probably better. I'd like
the
to see
shades
both
off.
men on the stage. I wouldn't want them in separate
Can you take the Biden
locations.
shades off, please? This guy.
Sorry,
I didn't even see you bring him out. That's funny, though.
I get excited about about Biden. But yeah, I think it'll be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it. It's, me, I love that political stuff. I watch all of it. So a debate is like the Super Bowl to me. I love it.
For
I
sure.
love it.
I've been hyped for it for a long time.
Yeah.
But I kind of had some interesting news on how coronavirus is affecting like our state budgets, specifically like California, but also just around the world, around the country, because the economic, it's harder to see than like you notice. Like you don't notice it
Yeah.
visibly, but it's happening like under our feet. Like you said earlier, like the rug is swept from under our feet.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got some numbers, like some projections from the Brookings Institute, which is
Gotta love the Brookings.
yeah, it's an economic school, right?
Yes.
So they've just got some numbers on some revenue drops, which is pretty insane. Like, I mean, as you know, California had a budget surplus of like
Yeah, at the beginning of the pandemic.
50 billion ish,
And
right?
now we're in a deficit.
Well, around the country, for the year of 2020, they're predicting that we're going to have a budget shortfall of 155 billion across the states. That's state revenues across all states, and that number is going to increase next year for 2021. They project, and this is like a separate number, so it's not like it's an extra 15 billion more. They expect we're going to lose another 167 billion in revenue shortfalls.
Hold on, Brandon. Could you say that number one more time, a little slower?
167 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$167 billion. You could end poverty with that.
That is an inconceivable amount of money.
Yeah, and that's just from, like we said, the lack of consumer spending because they don't have enough money. So there's less tax revenue. There's less sales tax revenue. So there's lots of factors that happen when people have 5% less money around the country, we're going to see a 5% retraction. And, specifically tax revenue decrease is going to be at 5% this year and 7% next year and then 7.5% in 2022. So these are, 5% doesn't seem like that much, but it is a chunk. It's a chunk.
It's a fat chunk.
So we are seeing like radical changes to our economy due to the virus.
Yeah, and that's just on revenue side. We've talked before about all the other effects that the coronavirus has had on daily life, on American life, and on the economy. We're gonna keep talking
around
about
the world.
that, of course.
Around the world, it's increasing, not just here.
Yes.
Like we've had our second surge and looking like we're heading into like our fall uptick.
Right.
But Europe is fully into what looks like a second surge because originally they had like a big downswing, but now let's get this graph up of the second upswing. Like
that was really fast getting the graph up there.
that is a full up to higher than their daily reported cases at the beginning of the virus.
Yeah.
Luckily it looks like their death rate is staying about the same, but that's because most of the virus is infecting younger people. So
yeah,
this is the beginning of the second
I'm glad
wave.
that the deaths seem to be really like evening out, like a lot more infections, obviously.
Well, I really do
But-
think it's like a college age,
Yeah, it's a thing.
under 40 people are catching it because they're out and about thinking they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then they're bringing it home to their parents and their grandparents, and that's what's
Right.
happening. So it's crazy that the UK has officially gone back on lockdown in certain states, in certain cities. So localities, I guess. They don't have states.
Counties, I think they call them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, because they have counts.
Just a reminder for the rest of the world, COVID's still a thing.
Yeah, we also have to look
Public
at
service announcement.
like I keep bringing up India, but India is like a really
India!
crazy case because they have such a high population of like 1.5, 1.6 billion people. And the fact that, they don't have a reasonable strategy over there either. Modi is trying to come out, their Prime Minister Modi
Yes.
is trying to come out with a herd immunity strategy, which means, letting it spread, basic social distancing policies, but
what's their population exact? I thought it was 1.6 billion people that live in India.
yeah, and they're just going to sacrifice 1% of 1.6 billion. That's going to spread the virus to hundreds of millions of people.
And plus, you got to think about outside of the country as well, right?
That's going to spread back to China. That's going to spread
Yeah.
all through the Middle East. Like, India could become a crazy hotspot.
What was your number, Pete?
I said 1.6.
Well,
So 1.4.
it says 1.353.
Okay.
So
That is an insane amount of people.
That's huge. You're not. That means that you need close to 1 billion people infected, and then
1% of those people.
because herd immunity is something like 70-80%. That's what Tony Fauci was saying.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to get 70-80% of the Indian population to,
And like they're living in tighter, quarters.
that's a bad plan. That's a bad plan, Modi. Let me tell you right now.
It's nasty. It's nasty. Like, it's not just here. Like, all across the world.
no, it just sounds like an unplanned plan.
Yeah, this
He got
Trump
asked
is
this
trying to do the
question.
same thing.
Yeah, it's like Trump. He just got asked the question, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna."
It's like,
We're just gonna wait for.
I'm gonna free ball this.
herd immunity. I don't have a Modi. I don't know how he talks on.
It's a
I think it would
mess.
just be racist if I did it.
Yeah, just don't.
Yeah.
Trump is still coming out and saying it's going to disappear. Like like how are you still saying that?
After
It's-
already being openly exposed for knowing that you've been lying.
and like it doesn't have to go away. Like the flu virus comes back every year.
And
So-
we prepare for that. People prepare for that.
I'm just gonna say like
Yeah, we have no flu. We have no influenza vaccine.
I mean the flu shot, but it changes every year. So you
Yeah.
have to, like that's the concern about
That's the
coronavirus.
whole reason, yeah.
That
Yeah.
they're worried it'll just mutate every year and
Yeah.
become like a standard, which is
Maybe vaccine's bad.
effing terrible.
I mean,
okay.
That's a little
Okay.
that's a
You
little
ruined my transition.
controversial.
That's a joke. That's a joke.
I mean, around the world, things are really hard right now. Like, not
Yes.
just in America, and especially with like social media and everything. Like, it's hard not to be global minded. Like, I am truly worried about the state of India
Yes.
and the state of Europe and Belarus and all these other stories that resonate with like me personally.
Yeah, Lebanon too, in the recent.
Like that, I feel like for our viewers, and we're gonna like kind of fade out of the first bite now, kind of get into our main
My first bite.
our main segment on social media in the state of coronavirus and just its effect on people. I mean, it's hard not to have a global mindset, and we're seeing all these things, and like people aren't used to having to focus on the entire world.
Well, yeah, our
and-
brain's not wired that way, really.
Yeah,
Right? Like our brain is wired, my friend, my family,
my local area.
um,
Within a certain mileage.
But now social media has done this thing where it's made all of the problems of the world at your fingertips. They're right there.
Yeah. So I would say it's very understandable for our viewers if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel stressed, anxious, and hopeless. I mean, this stuff is a lot. Like, when's the last time there's been a global pandemic that's infected, tens of millions of people, killed almost 1 million people, and we have people acting like it's not happening in our leadership, So there are so many resources available for our audience members. There's hotlines. There is counselors that you can call to that are free. I mean, usually if you go to college, they offer like 6 free sessions to students
Yes.
usually.
Yeah, school.
But also
counselors.
even your doctor can like provide like free counseling up to a certain point if you have like insurance.
Yeah.
Like
So, and we will leave some of those links and things and information down
Phone
below
numbers.
in the description, and we'll maybe we'll put some stuff up.
I mean,
here
those
too, but-
hotlines are a big deal. They exist for a reason.
Yes.
Even if you're not having an emergency, like there are people there are just like trained to listen to you and just like hear you out and talk. And they they're Americans too, so they have their own emotions that probably relate to you. So even if you just like need someone to talk to that's not your friend or your family, like there's someone on the phone like waiting for you. So we are going to be talking about mental health and suicide and depression. So I did just want to give a little warning for the viewers.
Just to reiterate what Brandon said, there are people there who will listen, and we just want everyone to know if you ever feel like you're alone, it's absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
Please, like, it doesn't have to be an emergency. It could be off a whim. Just give them a call. It's like free therapy, guys. Therapy's good for you.
And
I
I
hope,
mean-
I hope someone has told you that in your life, because I know a lot of people have some stigmas against therapy, but nothing hits harder than just saying what you feel and
Yeah.
having someone hear it.
And they take emergency calls too. Like if you're, in a
Exactly.
panic, like they know what they're doing over there. Like that's what they're
They'll
there
talk
for.
you down. They'll get you to your roots and what's wrong.
And the reason that we kind of brought this up is because of the Social Dilemma documentary that came out a few weeks ago.
So good. Watch it.
We mentioned it last episode, but like it's really made just such a widespread effect on like our society that like I've been seeing it talked about almost daily. And like you've seen it, right, Peter? What'd you think? Like just some
Oh,
general thoughts.
I mean, I thought so. A lot of it I already knew, right? But I hadn't put it in the context yet of like children seeing it.
Yeah.
Of people who are less educated and don't want to maybe research a thing a little bit further, seeing fake news.
I mean, because we're
like-
used to be like I'm used to being like the youngest generation, but
Yeah.
there's like middle schoolers now who are seeing almost the same stuff that I see. Like,
Yeah, it's scary stuff, and more so, the part that I didn't really know about was how they designed these apps, these tools in the social media, websites and things, specifically for kind of trapping us in it and making us think about
it's
it a
an
lot.
addictive tendency.
Yes.
Trapping our attention. And I mean, all of these things are true, but now that we have a COVID quarantine and, kids, adults, everybody's stuck at home, the social media usage has just exploded. So focusing kind of on like people our age, college students, we found that 50% of young adults were living at home during the COVID crisis, which is crazy. It's an increase of 2.6 million just from earlier this year. So we're seeing more people who hadn't lived at home or had, maybe started their life outside of home, going back and living maybe at home with their parents who they'd already separated from, which can definitely, cause some stress and anxiety in the home.
Oh, believe me, I know.
I'm gonna hit the folks with the statistics right here.
What's that?
Bam.
Yeah, look at this graph. So what we actually found is that the number of young adults that lived at home hasn't been this high since the Great Depression.
It's higher than it was in the Great Depression right now.
Higher
By 4 points than at its highest point in the Great
If
Depression.
anybody needs a history lesson, this is about when the Great Depression was.
Yeah. So not only is the stress and anxiety at such a high level, but the economic situation is similar to our worst time in America. So there's so many reasons for, our viewers to be upset. It's a real physical thing that's happening. It's not all made up. And it's scary to see the effects that it has because it's real. Like the CDC has just released this groundbreaking report on mental health right now during the quarantine. They found that a quarter of young people, which ranges from the ages of 18 to 24,
That's us.
a quarter of young people contemplated suicide during the pandemic. Contemplated means that they, thought it out,
Contemplated. I'm sorry.
rationalized it.
I can't have no. Contemplated.
Contemplated? What did I say?
Contemplated or something like that?
I think I said it right.
No, you said it wrong.
Oh, whatever.
Contemplated.
They rationalized it. They thought it through. I mean, they might not have made plans for this kind of action, but like,
they considered.
yeah,
It was on their mind that perhaps,
there's no hope.
yes.
We got Trump. We got climate change. We got economic crisis.
I don't
we
have
got
any money to buy food
yeah. I
Or
mean,
pay my rent.
or pay my rent.
Or
got-
pay my mom's rent.
we got food and it's McDonald's. We got the Travis Scott burger. That's like
That's all I've eaten for 6 stinking days.
But like for real though, I mean it's hard for people to see hope when you hear that there's going to be a climate catastrophe within the next 12 years. And so you hear that number and you might think, okay, so how has that number probably changed over time? So in 2017, 13% of teens reported that they had experienced a major depressive or anxiety episode during the year. 13% in 2017 of teens.
It's still a pretty high number, I will say.
That sounds like about right, honestly.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
we're gonna put this next number up. It's gonna blow people away, but
Yeah.
that's still pretty high when you consider it.
Yeah, and then in 2007, when more millennials were teens, that number was just 8%, according to the Pew Research Center. And according to the CDC's report, that number during the COVID crisis for people 18 to 24 who experienced a major depressive episode or anxiety was 75% of young people. 75%.
3/4.
That means everyone in this room.
Well, if there's a fourth person, but I'll just say it outright. I have experienced depressive episodes during this pandemic.
How could you not?
As have I.
How could you not? Like it's real. Like,
Yes.
like everyone in this room just said, we all relate on that. We're all going through it. And, not just people our age. In total, that number was 30% across all age ranges. So it's not just us, it's our parents. One of the craziest stats actually to me was I think it was a third of caregivers or nurses. Like, I didn't even, think about the in-home caregivers who...
Well, because they have to be separate from even their own family if they're caring for elderly people. That's the requirement right now for those people is that they have to be in quarantine and they only really interact with that person that they're caring for. And
probably not living in their normal apartment.
Yeah, probably not living with their family, not seeing their children and such.
Society-wide change.
Yes.
Like, not just economic. Like, our society has been functionally change. You know, people feel weird that they can't go out to the bars and stuff or to the gym. Like, I do understand that. Like, you know, you went to the gym every day and that was your lifeblood, and now you can't go to the gym and now you're depressed. Like, that's a 1, 2, 3 process right there. It's heartbreaking. According to the CDC, 13.3% of people turned to alcohol or drugs or, you know, increased their usage during the quarantine, which also makes sense. You know,
Not surprising at all.
People are not working, they're at home, they're bored, they're sad, they're coping.
Yeah.
So it's just hearing that these numbers, like, they're real people. These are our neighbors. These are us. These are, you know, our friends.
These are your firefighters. These are your chefs.
I'm going to kind of get deeper into the statistic, but this is also from the CDC report. The suicide rate among people aged 10 to 24, people who actually did commit suicide, increased 56% between 2007 and 2017. Tying it back into the documentary, they kind of tried to, you know, directly correlate the dramatic rise after 2007, 2008 to social media being influenced. They use, this is an actual graphic right from the movie The Social Dilemma. Please go see it. The number of young girls who were admitted to the hospital due to self-harm was stable until about 2009, 2010. As you can see, there's a dramatic rise right around that bolded number at the bottom.
Yeah, 2009.
So the rate of self-harm admitted to the hospital was up 60% in older teen girls, but also up 189% in girls aged 10 to 14. Like, these are little, like, children, middle school, fifth grade, our children, like, our little sisters. And go to the next graph, which shows actual suicides that have been the cause of death for our teenagers. As you can see, around the same time, 2009, 2010, there's a dramatic rise. Suicides are up 70% in older teen girls, but also up in girls aged 10 to 14, 151%. And that graph is showing deaths per million. So even the fact that it goes from 30 deaths per million, 50 to 50, those are still young teenage girls who haven't left high school, who haven't got to experience college, who haven't got to experience life. And honestly, I truly do attribute it to the society that we're in the process of building, that is based on social media and, you know, fame and attention and
likes, how many likes you get.
Yeah, they covered in the movie how there's literally a new phenomenon called social media Snapchat dysmorphia. And the filters and that we're putting on our faces, they can give girls the misconception that they either always have to look that way or they won't get the same kind of likes in real life. You understand? It's changing not only the way we, you know, present ourselves online, but how we use the same processes in our daily interactions. Mm-hmm. So we're doing things for attention, doing things to, you know, appease the crowd instead of forming true human emotions. And I just kind of wanted to go into some of the highlight quotes from the movie, just some.
Yeah, I love quotes. You know I love quotes.
Yeah, just some of the shorter things, just so more people can get kind of the vibe that they go into. So this is from Professor Shoshana Zuboff, Harvard professor from the business school. She wrote the book that's called The New Age of Surveillance Capitalism. And she goes on to say that social media is what every business has always dreamt of. To have a guarantee that if it places an ad on social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, it will be successful. That is their business. They sell certainty. In order to be successful, you need to have great predictions. Great predictions begin with one imperative, that you need to have a lot of data. Mm-hmm. So Facebook isn't exactly just giving up their data. They're not just, selling it directly to these advertising companies. Facebook is using the data to build algorithms and to make them more accurate. And they use these algorithms to make, sell your ads here because we have the best algorithms. Because we use the most data for the people.
If your tool is the best, right? And Facebook it has massive ad revenue. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit. But if your tool is effective enough, you can pinpoint what group of people wants to see what type of ad, and you can also in some ways change a perspective, change an opinion change what a person thinks that they want or need
Yeah.
by showing them the same ad over and over and over and over again.
Or just like, okay, I like Jordans, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
show you more Jordans, and now you're getting Jordan news, and now you're getting the Jordan subscription ads, and now you're getting, maybe you're getting some Jordan conspiracy theories. The further you get into it, Michael Jordan's a lizard now. So she goes on to say that in surveillance capitalism, we have markets that trade exclusively in human futures, betting on human futures. Just like we have markets that bet on pork belly futures, or oil futures. Those markets have produced the trillions of advertising dollars that make these tech companies so wealthy. So like you were saying, it's a tool. I mean, we kind of imagine phones to be a tool that we use to better our own lives. But now they've become tools that the advertising companies use, or Facebook uses the tool to gather data for us so they can monetize us. The tool has become against us instead of for us, in a sense.
I think that you don't have this quote in here, but I remember it from the movie. The main guy, what was his name again?
Tristan?
Tristan.
Tristan.
Yeah, Tristan something.
No.
He was saying that, there's a lot on the internet that appears to us to be free, right? Like we can search Google for free. We can go on Wikipedia for free. We can go on YouTube for free. We can do all of these things for free. But it's not actually free, right? Somebody's paying for it, and it's the advertiser. And what the advertiser is paying for is for you to see their advertisement. The quote that stuck with me, and the one that I wanted to put in here was, when you are using something that's free, most likely you are the product. You are the thing that's being sold. Yeah.
But yeah, like I've got another quote here from one of the programmers. He was like a computer science nerd. He had like a great resume, but I forgot exactly what it was. He was one of my favorites in the documentary. The bearded guy with the long hair. Mm-hmm. He went on to say that we've created a world. This directly responds to what you were just saying. We've created a world where online connection is We've created a world where online connection is primary, especially for the younger people. Yet in that world, anytime two people connect, the only way that it's financed is through a secret third person who is paying to manipulate those two people through advertising, through, pushing them a certain way through the algorithm. Mm-hmm. So we've created an entire global generation of communication and culture manipulation that's built on subliminal ads and, paying influencers to advertise stuff without exactly saying that they're advertising.
And lies, right?
Yeah.
Like straight up lies.
It's deceit.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you I'm selling you something, but I'm selling you something.
Yeah.
Like, here, all we're trying to do is just bring you information. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want you to just like us and know that we are.
I'm trying to sell you a political agenda.
The truth.
Well, at one point YouTube had to step in because of stuff like that. You had YouTubers who were making videos and they would put their advertisement in the video, but they didn't, use discretion and tell you, oh, I'm advertising to you. They would just have it in there so that younger kids, can't tell fact from fiction very well. So they would use their parents' credit cards and buy these things because they were like, oh, this is for them. And so YouTube had to step in and make it so that you have to tell them clearly to their face.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid to tell you this.
I like how Instagram does that now. It'll say paid advertisement.
Yeah.
Instagram had to step in too.
But I mean, you bring up a good point that children are going to be way more affected by this kind of thing. Because I mean, I see a Jordan ad and I'm not going to buy him. Like, I can just scroll past it. But if I'm a kid and I'm seeing, certain ads or just, taking it out of the algorithm context, like just what we consider cool as a society. I got to dress this way. I got to have 10 girlfriends. I got to be, a rapper. I got to do these drugs. I got to, whatever.
I got to eat less and
I got to look better. I got to lose weight. I mean, all of these things that are just advertisements. Like people want to look like models because they're on the cover of magazines, not realizing that model probably went through so much pain to look like that, Mm-hmm. Like we don't treat our culture like realistically. We're not. No. We
don't treat ourselves realistically. Like interpersonally, and even like, when your own judgment of yourself, you don't treat it fairly.
Yeah, what do you think? We're too tough on ourselves, or we give ourselves? I think
as far as like looks and weight and that kind of thing, we're too tough on ourselves.
Yeah, I think we're too tough, and that pushes people to want to become whatever they see.
Yeah.
Because whatever I am cannot be good enough, and that's just literally what we're telling people. Like, I mean, especially growing up black, you don't see a lot of black role models, so you just get what you get, like literally, and that's why I think it's just so important to have like positive role models, like Chadwick Boseman, for example. But
rest in power.
I also wanted to give another quote from Tristan Harris, the guy that we were talking about earlier.
Harris is his last name.
Yeah, he worked at Google.
Ethicist or something, right? Isn't that what he was?
Yeah, he talked about how he went to school for like persuasive technology, which literally was building technology to persuade people, which is a Stanford course that a lot of people at Google went through, which is interesting that they all went through the same course. But he goes on to say that there's 3 main goals of apps nowadays: to keep you engaged, to drive up your usage, to keep you scrolling. That's engagement. And then there's also the growth goal, to keep you coming back on the app and inviting more friends, which is going to be, your annoying notifications, that kind of thing. And then there's always the advertising goal, which is a mixture of the engagement and the growth. They want to make sure that no matter what, that their content is going to be advertiser friendly, making sure that they're always making as much money off of the product as they can. Mm-hmm. Like, we have to remember that these are companies that need to turn a profit at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And they don't just make money.
And they have shareholders that they have to pay out to, too.
Dividends,
yeah.
Like, they're not hosting Twitter because it's so great to have an open platform. They're hosting Twitter because, 1, they need to make money.
Yes.
First and foremost.
Primary.
2, information is cool. And they also talked about how the infinite scrolling feature is a direct, like, attention-grabbing, mind-numbing, killer.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a little bit in the last pod. That you like when you go back to the top and there's more, you're like, oh.
Yeah, the actual term for it is positive intermittent reinforcement.
Well, that's a fancy term.
Yeah, intermittent meaning like it's not always there. You're hoping it's there like a slot machine. You're hoping you're gonna win. You're hoping when you scroll up and it refreshes that there's gonna be a beautiful girl there or something, or a text from your girl or whatever. Like, or when you wake up in the morning, you hope that you see a text, or they set up.
They asked an interesting question. Sorry to interrupt you, but they asked an interesting question in it. And the question was, do you check your smartphone before or after you pee in the morning?
Before or while?
Oh, before or during, right? Yeah, that was the question, because it was like there's no doubt. Everyone either checks it before or during their morning urination.
It's the first thing I do.
Yeah. So, yeah, ask yourselves that. Do you check it before you pee? Do you check it during your pee? Like it's insane how addicted we are, how like I'm sitting here right now and I'm talking about it and I want to check my phone. It's sitting over there. I want to check it. I want to see what notifications are on it.
We're both shaking.
That powerful. It's that powerful. And we're all of us addicted to it.
Not just kids.
Not just kids. The whole load. Anybody who's got one of these things and uses it regularly is addicted to it.
And it was so interesting seeing the Pinterest CEO, who was also like the head of monetization for Facebook. I forgot his name, but he was one of the main guys in the documentary. He was saying that he would be at work all day working on those algorithms and then would go home and would be stuck on the algorithms.
Fall victim.
Like ignoring his kids. Like,
so crazy, dude.
Like, it's crazy because he's
is a guy
saying
who
it.
knew what it was supposed
it.
to do. Like, he knew what it was going to do.
Look,
and he let it do it to himself anyway.
Another crazy quote about positive intermittent reinforcement. Tristan Harris said this. He literally said, "It's not enough that you use this product consciously." He said, literally, "I want to dig down deeper into your brainstem and form an unconscious habit." Brainstem.
Yeah, get out of my brainstem, Tristan.
Yo, what? You can't say that.
I'm just going to hit the folks at home with a quick Jack Tunney PSA for their brainstems.
The brainstems.
Get in their brainstems, Tunney.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now. If you wait 10 minutes after you wake up, because I know a lot of you go straight to your phone.
This is a good tip.
This is a great tip. I did this myself. It works. If you wait 10 minutes, get everything done that you do in the morning, and then check your phone, you will feel 10 times better.
Different day.
Hey,
It is
here's another thing
completely
too that I
different
think.
day.
I think every single person that's watching this podcast should put on their screen time app. Just do it for a week. You don't have to do it for the entire time. See how many hours a day you spend on that device.
I don't want to talk about my screen time.
I don't want to
to
talk about mine
Don't-
either.
Don't
It's
look at Brandon's phone. It gets scary.
embarrassing.
Don't talk about my phone.
It's embarrassing how much time we spend like on these, factory made,
Attention machines.
attention machines.
Advertising attention machines.
It's
like
disgusting. It's
And I mean-
disgusting.
It's not what Steve Jobs was imagining.
No, and that's what they said, and that's what they said in the thing. They were like, we made the like button. We didn't think like when we made the like button, we didn't think 10 years down the line people would be killing themselves because they weren't getting enough likes.
Yeah.
That wasn't even in their wildest dreams.
or they're
you
just
know?
getting, just trolled and bombed and what's like fire rated when people just, storm people's accounts and just leave comments for months.
Yeah.
Like people do that. People, just troll celebrities and like it does like lead to
Yeah, it's
deaths.
adverse effects and horrible mental health like stuff that comes out of that. So
I want Tunney to pull up the clip from former Facebook president Sean Parker.
I fucking hate this guy. If
Who-
anyone's ever seen the social
Another
the social
guy.
network, this guy is a prick. Let's play him.
Another guy literally just saying it out loud.
If the thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them to really understand it, that thought process was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while.
Keep you coming back.
Because someone liked or commented on
Like
a
a
photo
drug.
or a post or whatever. And that's going to get you to contribute more content, and that's
Gotta
going to
get
get
more
you, more likes and comments. And it's a social validation feedback loop.
Bruh.
That it's like it's exactly the kind of thing that
Bruh.
that a hacker like myself would come up with, because you're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. And I
Starts
think that
chuckling.
the inventors, creators, and it's me, it's Mark, it's the Kevin
Zuck.
Systrom at Instagram, it's all of these
Name
people.
drops him.
Understood this consciously, and we did it anyway.
Pause it there.
All right, let me just close.
Yeah,
They did it anyway.
fact
They
that he's-
understood consciously. That we were talking about Trump last week, right? And we were talking about how what did he know? When did he know it?
Mm-hmm.
What Sean Parker just said is that these dudes, when they were making this software, knew exactly
Yeah.
what they were doing, and they did it anyway.
He's so like confident and like cocky
and
about
he's like,
it.
he like feels good about it. He's like, yeah, we did it.
I'm a hacker.
We just did it.
Yeah, we exploited the people.
We
got a hacker
exploited you.
brain.
We continue to exploit you.
I know how to use a computer way better than y'all, and I've hacked your brains. And we did it anyway.
I got up into your brainstem.
Like it's just
Anyway.
annoying like these guys who do these terrible things and just brag about it, and they know that they're so powerful that he's untouchable. It's not like he's gonna go to jail or anything. I mean, it's not like he did anything directly criminal.
Yeah.
But something that they also said in the documentary, never before has 50 mostly white people, 20 to 30-year-olds in Silicon Valley in a boardroom, never before has that group of people, small group of people, had enough power to change 2 billion lives. What
Well,
they see on their phones.
I was reading some statistics, Brandon. Apparently, this year, over 50% of the human population is now a user of social media.
That's insane, man. Like
50%.
Do you want me to hit him with the graph?
No,
not
not
yet.
yet.
Not that graph? Okay.
But yeah, it's like people are getting their information. It's in a sense, it's still better than only having, TV news. But the thing about social media news is that there's no fact checking. It's like wild, wild west. It's so easy to see misinformation. It's so easy to get stuck in these algorithms, and just because you're in California, when you look up politics, you'll get leftist politics. Maybe if you live in a Republican state and you look up politics, you're just going to get, right-leaning politics just because of your location and what the algorithm thinks you'll like just because of where you live. Like, it's literally that, mathematical and inhumane that we're just, these data points.
So what do you think that we should do? Do you have any, like...
Look, because that's a good question, because I'm not going to sit here and say that social media is all bad. Like,
no, there's lots of good to it.
We're using social media to help our podcast run. People get famous off social media and change lives and donate to causes. And
yeah.
But, when I have kids, will I put them on social media? Will I let them have iPhones before the age of 16? No. Like, people really might have to become that kind of parent where it's like no phones. Like, I might have to watch what you're doing.
Let me ask you this. Let me be a little bit more specific. Do you think that these tech companies themselves can fix this problem? Or do you think that there has to be, and like you said, an interpersonal fixing where we're like, okay, maybe we don't give kids these phones. Maybe we limit ourselves. Or possibly the third option to that, government interference.
Truly, I think the answer, while I think government interference would work, I don't see how they could actually enforce Google to, fact check. And I don't really think the government should be in charge of fact checking, that kind of thing.
That's true too.
Just, just principle. But I truly think it becomes, our responsibility to help our neighbors and help our parents, read Facebook. And I mean, even young people are victim of misinformation and, just sharing Instagram and Twitter posts, so we just have to hold each other accountable and teach people how to fact check and, Google multiple sources. Like, it's so easy to fact check, but people don't realize that the information that they're being sold is directly fake or directly meant to mislead them, especially when it comes to politics. Like, they want us to, maybe if you're on the left news is going to sell you whatever it can to keep you on the left, and the right's going to sell you whatever it can to keep you on the right, and the moderates will keep the moderates. Like, that's what media does. Like, it gives you what you want, so you keep coming back.
Because they're selling your attention to advertisers. They want you there.
And adding politics into it just adds such a disgusting layer to it.
Yeah, so let's do that. Let's talk about it. So what my little segment basically is we're gonna talk about how misinformation in an age where internet usage has increased and personal contact has decreased. So we're talking about pandemic, what the effect is on
as of 2020.
As of 2020, what the effect is going to be on elections, on politics in general, that kind of thing. So for me to talk about this, I think we need to talk about 2016, because this was the moment when politics in America really changed.
For sure.
This was the clincher, and it shifted, and now we're in this kind of weird alternative universe.
The paradigm is shifting currently.
Yeah. So in 2016, just as an example of how crazy this year was, the Oxford English Dictionary chose post-truth as the word of the year.
So insane.
We have arrived at a place in society where an opinion is weighed equally to a fact in a debate.
It's Orwellian.
Where politicians, public figures, can lie with impunity, and they all know that we know that they're lying. They know that we know.
It doesn't matter.
We know that they know that we know, and it doesn't matter. They keep doing it, and they'll keep doing it. How on earth did it get to this? Well, we're dialing our time scales back. In 2016, what were the most prominent events? You have, obviously, the 2016 presidential election between Hillary Rodham Clinton and Donald J. Trump, and the referendum in Britain on whether or not they should stay in the European Union.
I was going to say immigration, which I would say is involved with Brexit and the election. So,
both of these events highlighted individually how advancements in social media and social media technology have effects on politics and on cultural narratives. So in Brexit, for instance, when they did the referendum, there was tons of misleading information in the media regarding what Brexit actually meant. They didn't fully inform their voters, And so they went into a referendum with mostly just media turmoil in their head.
Headlines.
And this is what Brexit will do. This is why it's good for British people.
We spend 300 million more on.
Yeah.
And it's a total lie. That famous stat.
Or misleading, right? Where it's like true, but the statement after it like leads it to a conclusion where it's not actually the logical step of the conclusion, right? So they're not all lies. It's just like they do, sketchy stuff with this information. And then, of course, with 2016, we know this, very well here in America that, lots of lies about, what Hillary had done, what she will do. And it goes for Trump, too. It was both sides. There was lots of misinformation about these two candidates during that time. And it made it an extremely divisive election that, caused what we're living in today.
Can I bring up one of my favorite debate moments from that year?
Yes.
I just saw a clip of it recently. Freaking Trump is like, Hillary, it's like the beginning of the debate. Hillary's like, I feel like by the end of this debate, I'm going to get blamed for everything that's ever happened in America. Donald Trump goes, why not? Why not? Like, this dude is blatantly about to just say the most ludicrous stuff.
He knows he is.
And he did.
And he did. And then he won. Because that's what it is. That's really what it is that people are not looking, and I guarantee you this is social media's fault, and I'll try to prove this to you, but they are not looking for the facts anymore. They are looking for the thing that confirms this bias that they have in their head, right? And we're guilty of it too. Me and Brandon are guilty of it too. Pretty much everyone in this country is guilty of it. You look for the thing that you believe that you agree with.
Yeah.
So let's get back to 16. We have these two major events happening in the free world. Happening concurrently to this, political groups start discovering the wider capability of the advertising tools and mechanisms within social media platforms such as Facebook, YouTube. And they start exploiting these, and they start showing a lot of political advertisements, particularly Facebook, a lot of political advertisements to people who may be looking for that kind of information. And then you have the repost epidemic, and there's a whole thing in that. A statistic I wanted to mention here was that Pew Research found that a fake story reaches your eyes 6 times faster than a true one.
Damn. Wait, keep reading.
That's crazy. And the reason for this, of course, another Pew Research Center poll discovered after 2016 that after the 2016 election, that a majority of Americans, 64%, believed that fake news was causing confusion in the election, and 24% of them admitted to spreading it themselves.
Yep.
So 24% of the people that Pew Research asked were like, yeah, we spread it.
Yeah, I spread some misinfo.
I lied.
I spread the Pepe memes.
Yeah, so... I mean, like, this is something that we're complicit in, too. This isn't just these big tech companies. We do it as well. But it wouldn't even be in our faces if it weren't for this algorithm that they've created. So the question you must be asking yourself, and this question that I ask myself when I reach this part of my research is, did it actually have an effect? Does fake news, misinformation, misleading information, does it actually have an effect on elections? So the statistics that we have in this... it says that more than 40% of the visits to 65 fake news sites come from social media, compared to around 10% of visits to 690 top U.S. news sites. These are like the actual, like journalistic. Only 10% comes from social media to those sites, whereas 40% goes to the fake news sites.
So it's like it's less likely to show up on Google if it's fake. Because I'm sure that these top sites probably have a ton of Google clicks.
Yes. But when you're scrolling through Twitter and you see something and you click it, it's more likely to go to something that's like a fake news source, if you will, or a like misinformation source.
Interesting.
And this is according to a 2017 study by researchers from NYU and Stanford. I like to throw in my credentials there, get a little
gotta get better at that.
Me,
I'm saying.
Also, more than 1/4 of voting age adults visited fake news websites supporting either Clinton or Trump in the final weeks of 2016 campaign. So we know that 25% of people who were of voting age were on these sites in the weeks before the campaign, or before the end of the campaign, and election night. Whether or not it had an actual sway on the election is pretty hard to tell, because you'd have to know like exactly when a person decided to choose a certain candidate, what reinforced it, what sort of, so what we can do is take the percentage of people that were visiting these websites and apply it to the election. And I mean, Donald Trump is president.
Yeah.
He is the fake news president.
Something happened.
Something happened.
I mean, just remembering the weeks before the election, those were some crazy weeks when the Comey things
stuff
came out. There was all those WikiLeaks dropped.
And
like,
there was Trump stuff too, sexual assault allegations and
the grab him
by the tape.
That was
a
few
couple
weeks.
months. I thought
think it was October though. I don't think it was.
Oh really?
It was like
The
September.
Access Hollywood?
August, September, October.
Yeah.
Like, just those 3 months. It was
the run up was crazy.
like insane. Like
Yeah.
how it was so hard to know what was fake news and what wasn't fake news. I mean,
and you and I were in high school.
I wasn't as much into politics.
I was, because I was in debate.
Yeah.
So, but I would be reading stuff, and it was like my job. I was the extemporaneous captain, so I did like weekly updates, kind of like this.
I was your
actually.
basic Bernie fan. You know?
And I did weekly updates, so I had to like stay up to date on news and stuff. There were things that I reported that like later kids came up to me and were like, yeah, this is not true. Because I was reading so much news and I was intaking so much, and I read like so much of the same thing that I would think that it was.
Yeah.
And
Or
I
I
would
mean-
report it to these people who are going to compete, and like it was a lie. It was
And
a straight
next
up
week
lie.
it'd be like there'd be a story one week and next week it's fake.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got the WikiLeaks stuff, which was like fake but real, but then also fake, but then how'd they get it? But then it's kind of real, and then some of it's so all of it just created this sense where you couldn't trust anything you were hearing at that time. So, it's hard to know exactly what the effect was on the election, but we all remember that. I don't remember anything that was real from that time.
No. Yeah, it was a very, very strange time, and I think it did have a direct effect. It's just really hard to tell that, you can't. You'd have to pull before and then pull after fake news expression or exposure, and like see if that swayed opinions. It's really hard to do. That's why they don't have that kind of information. But I think it's pretty straightforward.
It was such a cyclone of misinformation that it even made our government teacher vote third party.
Yeah.
He couldn't handle it.
Deary?
Yeah.
No. Mr. Astor.
Yeah, Astor for sure. Well, that guy is a whole other can of worms. I'll talk to you about some of that stuff after the podcast. But
that man has never
post-game?
stood for more American values than like the writing of the Constitution. Like, there's no man that I trusted more with a political opinion.
Shout out Mr. Astor. We love you.
And he came into class and said, "Do you want me to tell you who I voted for?"
Bruh.
And we all said yes. And he said,
Gary Johnson. Bam. I knew it. I wasn't there for that, but yeah, for sure that guy voted for Gary
applauded
Johnson.
him.
And in the exclusive post game, we will have a full topic on our favorite teachers from high school.
But yeah, so we talked about 2016. Let's talk about 2020. That's this year. That's what we're dealing with now. I have a special report from a guy named Simon Kemp who it runs a couple analysts of social media trends, that kind of thing. I had the company names, but
What'd he find?
What he found was that global internet traffic is up 30%, directly caused by the virus and stay-at-home orders. 41, you can go ahead and show that. 41 to 46% of the population has increased their social media intake, with 83% saying that they are using it as a coping mechanism. You said that.
With drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, with drugs and
But
alcohol.
As they cover in Social Dilemma, social media can be considered a drug with its dopamine effects.
Yeah, the dopamine effect. And 83% say that they are using it as a coping mechanism to deal with the lockdown-related mental health issues. As you can see, a lot of it is, streaming. It's, watching movies, watching TV. You're home more, you're probably going to do that more. But that second category there is spending longer using social media. So that means that there's a 46% that's what, for men? What's the top one? No, top one is female.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use those statistics. 46% of women have increased their social media intake in the time since the pandemic, and that's continuing to happen as we are still in a lot of stay-at-home orders and not a lot of in-person interaction happening.
And so, I'm gonna say that like social media is usually like news.
Yeah.
Like so, people are intaking a lot more news, a lot more global news, a lot more facts and numbers and that kind of thing.
Yes, but also more misinformation, more fake news, more divisive news. They're learning about things that make them angrier, obviously.
Yeah, we're still having shootings and police, murders, and so.
Yeah. So I mean,
continue.
Where was I? 83%. So, another thing I wanted to mention here, and that you can go off this chart. I just wanted to show that momentarily. Another thing that I wanted to mention here is that the rate at which people click advertisements or promoted content is up 20%. So people are at home more shopping. They're using that little advertisement machine that, Brandon was talking about that the social media networks have set up for you. They're using it more.
Giving more data to it.
Yeah, and giving more of your personal information away to these companies that are trying to sell you, essentially. The report also states, and I said this earlier, that the digital age has passed a milestone with about half of all people on Earth using some form of social media. 4.75 billion.
He just told me that stat before we started, and I lost my mind.
4.75 billion people on social media. That's what this report says. That's insane. That is insane. Like, I can't believe it. And that has been an increase, of course, as related to COVID, but that's been a steady increase for a great number of years.
Yeah.
That has led us to that point.
I mean, spreading technology and, first world technology, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're not even at 8 billion people yet.
So that's more than half.
It's more than half,
More than half.
That's pretty crazy to me.
It's the future, man.
This is, of course, in a time where you don't have the mitigating factor against fake news, which was somewhat of a mitigating factor in 2016, which is the in-person conversation.
That's a good point, man.
So when you bring up something that you read, like, for instance, like my mom had this friend for a long time, and he would bring up stuff to her, right? And in that conversation, she was able to say, hey, this is like the more true thing. Like, what you said isn't entirely accurate. She can kind of push him towards like what the real situation is, not the conspiracy theory, not the fake news, not the misleading stuff. That's happening less. We're spending much more time in our social media echo boxes, echo chambers that people are just saying exactly what we've been saying, and then you start hearing the same lie over and over again. You forget that it's a lie. You forget that it's a falsehood, and you start to believe it truthfully when your friends keep saying it, the people that you like on social media keep saying it. It's a major problem, and it's even more magnified as a result of COVID-19. Another thing that I wanted to talk about just very quickly, though, is foreign interference. So in 2016, we know that there was foreign interference in our election. The U.S. Senate's Committee on Intelligence filed a report detailing the interference. They confirmed that and I'm quoting here, the Russian government directed extensive activity beginning as early as 2014 and carrying into 2017 against U.S. infrastructure at the state and local level. They defined infrastructure as like storage facilities, polling places,
cyberspace.
Tabulation locations, that kind of thing. But what they did say about this in specific, and this isn't the social media side, I'm on the side that's attacking the polls. They said that they believe that this was predominantly reconnaissance, which means that it was laying the groundwork and understanding of the situation for a later attack.
Understanding our systems.
Yes, it's like when like a military operation,
like a probe.
They send in, they send the drones and they take pictures and they get an understanding of the situation. That's what happened in 2016.
Yeah.
Now it's 2020. I think that it's scary that this was reconnaissance, basically. Like that 2016 and how, scary that was, because there was a lot of talk about it back then. That it was only them, poking around a little bit, seeing what they could do. It wasn't even a full-scale attack on the system. The social media part of that, which was a smaller but more successful part of the interference, according to the committee, there were operatives prepared to release a misinformation campaign regarding voter fraud and the death of democracy on the night of the election if Secretary Clinton won. So we ended up not seeing it because, as we know, Donald Trump won the 2016 election. But if Secretary Clinton had won, they were about to release like an insanely large misinformation campaign to agitate the conservative right into a possible, protest situation, instigating violence. That was their goal. And that should terrify you if you're paying attention to the news today.
It's messy.
That should terrify you.
It's a switch. It's literally a button that they press.
And this was set up too by a large ad buy done before the election by Russians, be it the Russian government or a splinter group,
through
that
the PACs.
cast doubt on the election before it even began. So that was that news that was coming through that, there might be voter fraud. That was that Trump jumped on it.
Encouraged by Trump.
Yeah. So that was going on in there too. But I wanted to mention, like the actual interference so people don't get confused. It wasn't entirely social media interference. That was only part of their plan, was the Russian trolls. And a lot of these actually, we don't know if they were connected to the Russian government or not, but we do know that they were posting a lot of fake news and misleading information.
Usually of the same talking point.
Yeah, they're trying to disparage Hillary Clinton and talk up Donald Trump in this particular setting.
And now Joe Biden.
Yeah, I'll get into that when we talk about this election and what that's talking about.
But
I
had the transition.
What I wanted to say in transition,
we're working on it,
was social media platforms must recognize and actively combat fake news and misleading information, especially when it is paid for by foreign entities with the intent to disrupt our election. It's your job. You opened this Pandora box. And that's why I asked Brandon, not Jack Tunney. That's why I asked Brandon earlier if he thinks, it should be the companies, it should be the government, it should be people.
Yeah.
These companies did this to us. They are at the very least responsible in trying to solve the problem.
Okay, I'll give you a much better answer. I think that it is the company's responsibility. But as you know, with YouTube, like they can't be held responsible for what's posted on their platform, like a publisher kind of law.
Right.
I do think that law should be changed.
Yeah.
That I do think companies should be held responsible for what's posted on their account. If, like for example, there's mass shooters who be on Twitter accounts, then they follow the same accounts, and they've been posting these threatening tweets or Facebook posts, and it's all there on Facebook, and we already know that they see everything and they track everything and they can go through anybody's account. So the fact that, for example, Kyle Rittenhouse had threatening posts, like,
oh, you said his name. We're going to have to bleep it.
It's whatever, man. But, this information's there, but it seems like it's not being used to actually protect lives or actually being used to, keep the truth being out there.
Yeah.
So, like, that is one direct change that could be done.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't think that they can solve it. That's something that was also said in the documentary that we watched.
Because what is fake news? What is truth? What is misleading?
And also who decides.
Exactly.
But
that's the post-truth part of it. Like, it's up to you.
Here's my thing on it. You created a system that is now adversely affecting our society to its very core. We're talking about suicide rate.
The global society.
We're talking about depression rate. We're talking about literal elections you're affecting.
And racism.
Racism.
I mean, there was a great example in that one John Oliver episode about Facebook, about how they use it in Myanmar. Mm-hmm. How they
propagate the anti-Muslim.
Yeah, like just for saying Muslim and living in Myanmar, they'll give you anti-Muslim content.
Yes.
Just because of the location and one keyword.
Yeah, and then genocide.
And at one point they didn't have anybody on their staff that could speak the language. So they didn't know it was hate speech. So they let it go.
People in Silicon Valley.
Died.
People in Silicon Valley.
It wasn't that people died. There was a genocide.
They went out and killed people.
They had to flee the country in droves.
Yeah.
Neglect.
Because of people in Silicon Valley who had no idea what they were doing. They're
like, yeah, we'll push it into that market.
That's the problem with globalization, man. That's the problem with, worldwide capitalism, unregulated, globalism. Sure. Okay. Wow. They have Facebook. Wow. They were brought out of poverty. Wow. They got jobs. Okay. But then, Facebook has all these adverse effects. These, globalized jobs. Sure, they have a great paying job now, but then the factory leaves and now their rural, foreign town is underfunded. And, we come in and all we're looking for is a profit and spreading our our great American technology.
And anti-communism, don't forget.
And anti-communism, of course.
Which brings us to this election. We really got to work on those segues.
I thought you were done.
No, I got reports on this election. That's
Oops.
it. The New York Times reports that Russia intends on continuing its campaign of interference in fake news.
Oh yeah, because I disagree with you on this part. That's what I forgot.
This includes efforts earlier this year in the Democratic primary that attempted to get Bernie Sanders nominated. We would have loved that. The Russians believed Trump had a better chance of beating him than any of the other candidates. Misinformation spread about Joe Biden and his son regarding business ties to Ukraine. That's where Brandon disagrees. This was spread by a pro-Russian Ukrainian lawmaker, and you buy it.
I mean, when you got 50 Republicans signing off on a report, but we'll wait till there's more information about that. That report just came out yesterday. We'll probably cover it in the first bite next week, if Peter lets me.
Yeah, we'll cover it. If it, I'll read it.
Look,
and I'll see if there's anything of actual
I don't think
substance in there.
anything that Hunter Biden does should affect Joe Biden's electoral.
Well, it's
chances.
like Bill Clinton should
literally-
not affect Hillary Clinton's chances. Either,
Agreed. Yeah, it literally doesn't matter.
Like it does. There's different people, and Joe has been in office, and not a part of the business side of the world for 40+ years, 47 years.
I don't know if you have more points about Russia, but I feel like my opinion on it is that nothing that they can do is worse than us tearing ourselves apart, which is already happening.
Yeah.
But the interference and foreign actors creating bots, like that is a real problem that happened, and increasing the division that we're already fomenting ourselves. That's how I feel about it.
And that's they say that they are going to continue to do that as well. And obviously that's not all government related stuff. Like there's Russian nationals who are not
Private
government related
interests.
that are coming in and posting stuff on American chat boards and things that are like pro-Trump, anti-Biden. The FBI director said last week that the focus of the Russian efforts is to denigrate former Vice President Biden and to support Donald Trump. Trump chastised him, of course, after this because he does it to everyone that says anything that's remotely connecting him to, some sort of Russia gate or whatever.
I just don't think it's effective, man.
He said that he should have mentioned Chinese interference as well. Let's talk about the Chinese interference for a second. While it is true that American intelligence officials say that China opposes Mr. Trump's reelection, Beijing has not mounted anywhere near the level of covert operations to hamper the president's campaign that the Russians have done for Biden. It's a false equivalency, basically. Yeah. So that's basically what I want to talk about is like this other epidemic that we're dealing with, which is social media, is going to have an effect on this election too. And it's magnified and exacerbated as an issue by the pandemic. And listen, this election was going to be messy no matter what. Okay.
From day one.
From 2016, I knew that this election was going to be messy.
Exactly.
Okay. But with the complex overlays of the pandemic, fake news, foreign interference, a sitting president who won't agree to a peaceful transition of power,
societal breakdown,
a pandemic-induced economic crisis, a pending climate crisis, and the nation's largest reckoning with systemic racism in decades.
It's like
it's a perfect storm. It's the perfect storm.
How could you not be depressed?
And listen, I think, and I know not everyone agrees with, not even everyone in this room agrees with this sentiment.
Oh no, here he goes.
The first step to making things right in this country is practicing your civic duty of voting. Okay?
Give me. I want.
You want the Biden glasses?
Give me. Yeah.
There you go. Now you got to smile like I'm a little crooked. Yeah, I mean, voting is going to be, that's going to be the first step here. There's a long fight. We got to protest. We got to petition. We got to, pass propositions. We got to do a whole slew of things in order to fix this problem that we're in. But voting's the first step. That's your first thing that you got to do. And you got to vote to make sure that your voice is heard. So in the description down below, I'm going to be linking a link to register to vote.
It was
in your
recently
county.
National Register to Vote Day.
Yes, and if you already have, we're going to link how you check if you have, just to make sure that you're all good to go for Election Day. I think that y'all should be mailing in your ballots, and you should mail them in early. You should request them early, mail them in early. We're going to put down some of the dates of when the last time you can send in your mail-in ballot is for the election. We're going to put all of those things in the description. This is huge. This is the most important election of our lifetime. Please don't sit it out. Please don't think that this is just going to be another one of those things. It's not. We're talking about existential threats, existential terror.
The next 4 years, what do you want them to look like?
Yeah, and not even just the next 4 years, the next 40. If Trump is reelected, I mean, we might get a seriously terrible situation in the Supreme Court even before the election. But if Trump is reelected, we are ensuring that this country will have no progression forward for 10, 20, 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Vote.
The
And
Senate.
Vote for peace. Vote against division. Vote against violence.
Vote against imperialism.
Vote against authoritarianism. And ladies and gentlemen, as always, vote for Joe Biden.
No, Biden's been sounding great recently. Like, he said, like, a few things that I've been like, wow, thanks.
Thank you, Biden.
He was like,
Thanks, Obama.
this election is Scranton versus Park Avenue. I was like, okay. I know what Scranton's like.
But yeah, let's get into the milk, huh?
Yeah, that sounds good, Peter.
Sweet relief.
It was a good content hour. Good hour there. So, yeah, the milk.
What'd you watch this week, Brandon?
So I've been kind of watching I've been watching a lot of movies in quarantine because
Yes.
got a lot of time.
Like, we should show that statistic again. It's like 60% increase.
I'm one of those 60% increase in my streaming, watching a lot of old movies that I haven't gotten around to.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, this is directly related to, like, a section we're doing in one of my classes on, the governorship of California, which inspired me to get back into the old Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. Classic action movies, 80s and 90s, and just the fact that people went and, elected this guy governor. Like, Arnold Schwarzenegger is not some kind of amazing theatrical, dramatic actor.
No.
Terminators, like, those movies are not. I watched, like, the first 3 Terminators. I watched Total Recall. But,
Oh,
like,
I love Total Recall.
Total Recall is so, like, the movies are sick, but they aren't, like, amazing human movies that make you feel and philosophize. It's just this brain-dead bodybuilder guy who is just roaming around destroying stuff, but somehow the celebrity factor was enough to boost him to the governorship. Like,
yeah, and he had like real idea. I want to make it clear too, because it wasn't that he was Terminator and then he was the governor.
no, I mean,
Like, he had real political aspirations. He had plans. He had
he was
things
the
that he did.
outsider.
Yeah, and Californians are actually, before the nation decided to do it and elect a reality star, California was ahead of that, boy. We elected Ronald Reagan to be governor of our state before the country elected him to be president. We were ahead of that curve. We've done that a couple times. We got Reagan, we got Schwarzenegger.
We love our Hollywood president.
Yeah, we like those guys. Not this time around, but we do like those guys in general.
It's just like, that is an American character right there. Even if he's not a national born, like,
Yeah,
just
well,
the
he's a
fact-
citizen now.
Yeah, the fact that he got to grow from this action movie star who has no lines, doesn't say anything empowering,
Barely
in the
speaks
movies,
English.
barely speaks good English in the movies, grows over 20 years and becomes the governor, and is like, it's like the American dream right there.
Yeah,
And
I love it.
You can see that in the movies because, like, you get that beautiful 80s vibe, beautiful 90s vibe, and I haven't seen those movies, so those are American movies right there. Classics.
Yeah, I love them.
Stamp. The Brandon
I
watches.
like Terminator 2 though.
Dude, so sick. I mean,
Yeah.
just the way they
Judgment Day, that's what it's called.
Yeah, the way they just interpret how nuclear war will happen with algorithms and AI, that once an algorithm becomes self-aware, it'll start to, solve itself. And that's another thing they cover in the documentary a lot, like just the fact that these programs are learning themselves and they learn how to move through the world based on the data that they're given. Like,
It's learning.
yeah, it's not a light switch that you turn on and off. It turns itself on and off when it needs to be on and off. Like,
Yeah.
It's amazing technology. And Terminator actually like directly kind of covers that same kind of spiraling AI growth. So
It's a
good
connected
time.
milk story.
Yeah, it's a good time to
Congratulations.
watch those movies if you haven't. Like,
Yeah, what are you going to do when the AI comes up to you and says, give me your clothes and your boots?
what are you gonna do when the AI gets so smart that it starts sending robots back in time to make robots stronger from earlier?
Wouldn't
they-
we already
and they
see
all
that
look
though?
like
If they were
That's
gonna
what I was
Austrian
thinking
hunk.
if they were
about.
sending robots back in time, we'd see it already.
That's what I was thinking about.
So
The robots created a time loop.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, watch the movies. They're dope. I love time travel movies that do it well.
Also watch Tenet. Me and Brandon watched that
Also,
recently.
why is all of them are time travel movies?
Yeah. they're
Total
good.
Recall and the Terminators.
Well, robots and time travel and AI, that's all, sci-fi. They put it under the same category, so it's like a
Good movies.
yeah. Well, I watched a good movie.
Tell
It's
me.
not related to the subject that we talked about, which I'm disappointed
let's
in
get
myself
some-
now because Brandon outshined me by relating his milk story to the main story.
Let's get some relief here.
So I watched this movie. This isn't relieving. I watched this movie called The Devil All the Time on Netflix, and I loved it. I loved it. It was disturbing and a little horrifying and thrilling, and it was like a true telling of like the American violent nature. And it also brings in some of the concepts of like a wrathful God, which I get into. I like in fiction and in things like that when there is like a deity figure, but not the good kind, the kind that's like, yeah, I'm just gonna kill some fools, because they wronged me
Interesting.
in some way.
Interesting. I'm gonna check it.
It's really, really good, and the cast is stellar. Tom Holland,
Yeah.
Bill Skarsgård, who played Pennywise in It, Robert Pattinson.
This guy.
Robert Pattinson. I love Robert Pattinson.
Everywhere right now.
He's everywhere right now.
Would you say the movie's kind of like Destiny based? Like it sounds like you say God, like what's going on?
I would argue yes, but it's not on the surface that. I would think that I think that when you watch it the first time, maybe you really don't get a Destiny vibe. But I watched it twice and I was like, bruh. There's some really cool stuff in it. I recommend it to you all at home. I think that it's
Is
definitely
it like
one
a
of those
teen
movies that-
movie, like a younger, like what's going on?
I would call it like straight an adult movie. It's rated R, so you have to be over 17 to watch it anyway. Not that people listen to that rule, but
Not that Netflix checks your ID.
Not that
No.
we have any 17. Well, I don't know.
we might.
Not that we have any 13-year-olds watching.
But yeah, it's graphic. There's graphic nudity. There's graphic violence.
Watch now.
So
All right.
probably not for kids, but it's a really, really, really good movie, and it made me think a lot. Like it's one of those movies you think about 2-3 days after you finish watching it. I love that. That's that. If a movie makes me do that, it's a good movie.
For sure.
Um,
That sounds dope.
yeah.
I'm gonna watch
Let's-
it.
let's-
I've seen it like recommended.
We have a new recurring section now in the milk in which we talk about possible aliens.
Aliens. See, now that I'm thinking about it, we got to make sure we actually have positive stories in the milk. Because I don't know if people think aliens are positive or if it's horrifying.
I think it's super positive.
I think it's super cool.
I think knowing that that we're not the only life forms that progressed
Yeah.
enough to be able to talk and then literally think and talk about thinking and talking.
Well, it's incredibly lonely
It is very lonely.
to consider that like we're like the only thing that's been capable of
Yeah,
doing, advancing in this way.
there's a Kyrgyzsag. I'm saying that a little wrong.
Kritzigate.
But yeah,
Let's see,
they do a
something.
lot of really in-depth science.
Great channel.
Great channel. They have great animations you could show your kids. It's all like really informative and like very, easy to comprehend, even though they're talking about, stars that are
Pretty pictures.
that are 400 times the size of our star.
Yeah.
And yeah, they talked about that, how if we learn of, if we learn of living things outside of our perspective, we're still in a systematic universe where there is a point before or after us.
Interesting. Yeah.
And if we reach that critical step and we fail, like going to space autonomously, we will fall into nothing.
Watch 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, there you go. It's like it's this idea that if there is people, if there is something out there that can do interstellar travel and do things like that, we could get there. But if they can't do that, that means we'll never get there.
Well, I think it's interesting that they're
You should
even
also-
finding.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's interesting that they're even finding like bacteria and gas.
And
like,
I'm gonna be
gases
completely
like
honest.
that.
The fact that we can find bacteria from this far away
Incredible.
is incredible.
It's next level.
But that means that bacteria could be huge somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like microbes. Except
We're
they're
talking like Lovecraftian now.
yeah, they're
Cthulhu's.
You can't even look at it because it's gonna
Yeah.
drive you crazy because it's just a cell, but it's literally cells on cells.
Yeah.
It's just something incomprehensible.
So I recommended 2001: A Space Odyssey there. I'd like to recommend the counter to that movie. And I do believe that it is the counter, and now that I have seen it. And it's this film called Ad Astra. Brad Pitt. You guys seen it? No.
No.
I don't think so.
How is it the opposite? Though?
It's
the counter.
the exact counterpoint
Interesting.
to A Space Odyssey. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's a brilliant film. So
I was
talking
gonna-
about space, we're kind of overran this milk story.
Yeah,
though.
I kind of want
Well,
to
you said
talk about the
aliens, and then we
actual
just-
story.
Yeah, what's the story here, Pete?
So
I don't have his.
the one of the moons of Jupiter has been famous for having like water under the surface. Europa.
Europa.
Yeah, so they actually have recently found water plumes, geysers, shooting from under the surface of the moon, shooting water into the air, or whatever, the atmosphere. So that is very significant because it means a few certain things. It means that there's being energy created under the surface, which can mean movement or, heat, usually.
Yeah, some form of core.
Yeah, there's a core, there's a moving
Might
core.
even be tectonic plates
an
of some
active
kind.
liquid core.
Yes.
And the fact that it's shooting out, it's happening now, it's currently. And I mean, we know that the underwater geysers in our own Earth is one of the most active nutritional areas that you can find.
And we also know that life on Earth probably stemmed from those volcanic geysers, because we were originally just a big blue planet, lots of water on it, right?
Yeah.
And an atmosphere, lucky for us. And then volcanic activity caused geysers, which then caused small bacterial life, so on and so forth, evolution, Darwin, humans.
I mean, the fact that we're seeing these same characteristics on other planets is
It's
awesome.
a good sign.
It's awesome.
I like what Brandon put down on the outline here. I'd just like to read it verbatim. Jupiter moon shooting plumes of water, aliens soon.
Let me write your headlines. I got
Let me
great
write your
headlines.
I'm
That's
calling
clickbait
up,
if
I'm calling up
I've
the New
ever
York
seen
Times.
one.
I also wrote the next one.
Oh, we don't read the New York Times. We don't.
Okay, well,
No, but we'll take their money.
that's my quote.
We will take their money.
That's my quote.
Yeah, that's a Brandon quote.
But I just because I love science and I wanted to be a paleontologist at one point in my life, and then I realized I can't make money doing that.
And there's no Jurassic
I-
Park either, so you
Yeah,
don't
and
get
Jurassic,
the.
and they-
Jurassic Park is kind of unfeasible.
They ran out of
because-
dinosaurs. They
because DNA doesn't work that way when it's been sitting in the dirt for so long.
they picked up the last dinosaur already, Tunney.
Yeah, but I just want to hit everyone with one of those quick historical, just overviews. Just because a lot of people don't think about it, you gloss over it in 5th grade and all that good stuff. Hit
Never
middle-
hear about it again.
Yeah, I hit middle school. They're like, yeah, it rained a long time, and then there was an ocean. They don't talk about that stuff. So the idea that microbes were born on this planet isn't very scientifically feasible, because in the early stages, and not to, shit on any creationists, but when planets collide at such a high velocity, it creates a lot of heat.
Yeah.
And there was things banging against the Earth before the Earth was even the Earth, and those meteorites are what brought the water to the blue planet that we live on. So all this
meteorites
water.
and
Ice.
Ice
comets.
and comets that are made of
Interesting.
ice.
Yeah.
They
Nice.
crash landed, and the only reason we could get that water is because it was so hot from all the impacts of all these meteorites that it created steam, and that steam brought atmosphere. So when Brandon brings up these geysers and they're breaking through the ice,
It's the beginning stages.
that is the beginning stages of an atmosphere, and that means
All right,
things
so give
could
it what 40 million years, and then we might see some minor life
yeah,
there.
like unless
Yeah.
we like
Looking forward to that.
unless we give it the good old college try and boost
Just
them really
boost them.
fast, but
Yeah, I can't
it's-
wait. I really can't wait.
Oh,
we
man.
can't even figure out, like, not to get political and everything because it shouldn't be that way, but we're still having problems giving equal rights to people on this planet. What happens when you get people coming from somewhere else?
Dude, what about the chimps?
What about the chimps?
You been thinking about that recently?
What if
Yeah.
an 800-pound gorilla just comes
What if
boring through the door?
what if it learns like consciousness? What if they start speaking?
we
what if the
we do
gorilla-
have chimps who do sign language. They can speak for themselves.
Chimps are terrifying.
The gorilla comes up and he's like, "Give me your boots, give me your clothes." From Terminator.
And then his eyes turn red. You're like, oh.
View
All
shoots.
right, let's
No
talk about a
hooligans.
little bit of wildlife though, huh? Let's finish this
I
up.
love
Let's-
talking about wildlife.
Yeah, this story is pretty wild, actually. Yeah, pull that article up and give me some of them numbers from that article.
Give you
please.
some of them number. So they're what?
Yeah, I'll give you some.
Yeah, so there is actually a national reserve in the Santa Monica Forest in the Simi Valley Hills. You know that area a little better than I
Yeah,
do.
I lived like right over there for a little while. Yeah.
Yeah, so there usually aren't new mountain lion births in this area, especially after the 2018 fires in that area. They say that a lot of the wildlife left, specifically in this area. So the news story is that there were 13 new baby cubs reported. Yes, he pulled them up. New 13 baby cubs were born during the summer period. And that's actually insane because, one, it's usually hard to find these baby cubs. And two,
Look at those little
it's a
guys.
record. 13 kittens being born to 5 moms is a record. The last record was 4 moms. So this is record breaking. It's awesome because this was a fire damaged area that's being, brought back to life. It's a record since they've started tracking these cubs. I mean, look
They're
at those
so
babies.
small, dude.
Like that's nature, man. Like
This is my favorite one. This last one.
they're so cute. Like
He's pissed. He's like, put me down.
Yeah, he's doing the Simba.
look
Yeah.
at that. You just have that up there, man.
Yeah. Just leave that there. I think that's.
These some cutie patooties right here.
I love to hear that kind of news. And just a little bit that we're not completely destroying.
that nature still ignores us, even though
Yeah.
it destroys us.
Sometimes nature still ignores
Yeah,
us.
I had like another add-on story to this too, where it was saying about how maybe like 48 species or something like that have been directly saved by conservation efforts. So like, we may not be able to save every coastline or save every animal, but our conservation efforts do make small change.
But let's be honest, Brandon. We wouldn't have to make conservation efforts if we weren't indiscriminately tearing through their lands.
Yeah, I mean it's directly sad because this is like a fire-burned area.
Yeah, but
You
these
know?
little babies, they're gonna be all right. They're gonna grow up and they're gonna eat cyclists.
Yeah, we're just gonna run through these cute killers real quick.
It's awesome. It is.
Yeah, they're gonna get really big.
Yeah, and it's good too
Those
because
eyes.
if 5 different moms, that means that there's genetic spread too. So when they grow up and they start mating, there's gonna be a whole new population there,
More girls.
unless they move. But yeah, I think that's great.
it's
I think that's a great story to wrap it up.
it's important. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you're right.
It's happiness, a little bit of hope, joy, new birth, renaissance.
Conservation, progress,
Yeah.
stability, saving. Other positive stuff that I can't grasp right now.
Lots of positive words in the PB&J podcast at the end,
At
You know,
the-
yeah,
at the
I
end.
mean-
at the very end.
I just want to reiterate that, social media, it isn't all bad,
No.
but we do have to remember that it is, it's a tool. and
It's a double-edged sword.
It's selling us something. It wants to keep us and it wants to use us.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say if you maybe, don't have some kind of business intention, you're not trying to clout up you're not trying to, get that growth, get that girth. Like you probably, probably don't need an account on Instagram, like really consider if your Instagram is something that's beneficial for your life. Like, I mean, I like it because I got my music accounts, I got my music news, I got regular news, I got connecting with the community news. But I mean, if you're just, looking at pictures of your ex, like, probably just get off that stuff, man.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with what Brandon is saying. I think that I think you just maybe just take a break. Maybe see how it feels to be just a little bit disconnected. Definitely put on that screen time, like I said.
Yeah.
And see, what apps you're spending the most time on, how much time you're spending per day, because it's disgusting.
Sometimes you got to learn a hard lesson.
Yeah.
Like, I spend 13 hours a day on my phone.
Oh, you're gonna drop it?
I'm gonna drop it right at the end for the 98% listeners.
I spend 7.5 hours a day on my phone average.
And it's not even like I'm actively using it, but just like going back and forth.
I'm just going to add to the Jack Tunney PSA. In those 10 minutes in your morning, when you are not looking at the phone, step outside.
Oh, definitely.
Breathe some
That's
air.
something I've been on.
Look
Get
at the
some
sun.
sun.
Look at the sun, you white boy. You and
I hope
me.
I didn't say it.
Well, it's true.
But
Irish runs deep.
We gotta make some changes if we're gonna make this world any better for our kids.
We know that social media companies aren't gonna rush to change themselves, so it's just about
they're making lots of money.
They're
not gonna rush to do anything.
Helping our parents and helping ourselves, and
That's right.
being a little more vigilant. And that's why you're watching this, so you can learn some more information.
And you kind of care about yourself.
Get a different perspective.
And now let's do some thank yous. I want to thank you, the viewer, for sitting here and watching this bullshit that we talk about, every week, and we sit here and we shoot the shit with you guys, and we really love doing it, and we appreciate you guys coming back. I appreciate my neighbor Carrie, if you're watching. You made me feel so good yesterday when you told me that you had listened to it. I hadn't plugged it to you at all. It made me feel really good. Shout out to my neighbor Carrie. And I'd also like to thank our producer.
Hey, that's me.
Jack Tunney.
We're gonna need a second camera.
I would like to thank
on
our
it.
editor, David Whitehead. And I would like to thank you, Brandon.
No, Peter, I would like to thank you.
Don't steal my thunder.
I'm going to thank you both.
There I was having a nice, beautiful moment, and you guys just deflated
on
my
it.
balloon.
Stepped on it.
But we appreciate you guys. Please like and subscribe. Go like and subscribe, and we will see you next week, won't we, Brandon?
Yep. Like and subscribe. We'll see you soon, all right?
Thank you, everyone.